type of trust would not be a taxable event because you would be getting a non-taxable income from a non-taxable trust are the kind of ways that the wealthy keep the wealth in their pocket. And then having your stock options seemingly not moving around and benefiting from at least the first 64 to $97,000 worth of non-taxable income on your stocks also helps you keep wealth in your pocket. And we talk about all of these things Monday through Wednesday. Now, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we talk about how to improve yourselves, personal growth, personal development, relationship stuff, how to navigate the minefields that is a relationship. And we do this in order to help you guys become higher valued individuals so that you can make better decisions in your personal life that does not cost you money in a negative fashion, so that you can then be able to focus more on how to make money for you in your professional lives. Because if you have more wealth, you have more personal freedom. And if you have less stress in your personal life, you can think outside the box to aid yourself in more uh, financial wealth and financial success. So we really appreciate you guys for joining the show. Special shout out to Michael. I do believe checkmate is afoot. So wanted to slide that in there. I put two and two together and check the rook. So we're going to enjoy that. Oh, real quick before I get started, I want to remind you guys that for those of you that are watching us from Twitter, X, or Twitch, this is a highly interactive podcast. So those of you who are watching from other places, including YouTube, if you guys comment and your comments are appropriate, you'll see them pop up over there, but you'll also see them come up over here. And I do respond to your comments when your comments are appropriate. I understand that there is no such thing as a stupid question, just an inappropriate time to ask a question. So I would ask that inappropriately timed questions are not asked so that we can kind of maintain a level of decency. And then also make sure that you remember that we do have some young bucks that slide through here that are not quite over the age of 18 yet, that do participate in learning stuff from the show. So, we kind of want to be respectful towards them as well. So, uh, beyond that, let's go ahead and get this party started. Because if you are an investor and you're probably tired of the usual options, you have the stock market that feels like a casino sometimes, and buying a rental property often means trading your savings for a second job filled with leaky faucets and angry tenants. The returns can feel underwhelming for the amount of stress involved. And this has led savvy investors to look for alternatives, which is what we have been doing. And some are turning their attentions to a lesser known channel known as Panama. So we cover a different country every day. Yeah, I see you looking, Michael. I see you looking. Now, it's not about buying a beachfront condo. It's about a specific private lending opportunity tied to Panama social housing needs, where some developers are often offering contracts that target high fixed returns, in some cases aiming for 30% over 24 months. How is this possible? It's not a government handout or a simple risk free venture. The real story is rooted in a nationwide housing shortage that Panama is trying to solve with powerful incentives. So, in tonight's show, we're going to be looking at the strategy where partnering with local developers to help solve this problem will gain you a lot of success. And we're going to examine how it works and what the real risks are and how some investors are getting involved. Now, for the average person, the world of investing can feel rigid. You work hard, save your money, and try to make it grow, only to be faced with a few frustrating choices. First, there's the stock market. uh, we've all been told just to put our money in an index fund and wait. And that is the lazy way to do it. Here on This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between, we've got you with the most undervalued, highest performing stocks across the market. We have growth stocks such as BBAI and Tesla in there. And we also have the majority of them are cash dividend stocks, where some of these stocks are in our core satellite portfolio and the rest of the stocks are in our dividend rotation portfolio, where together we're maximizing gains of well over 168% per year, which is proactive. And yeah, it's going to be taxed a little bit, but at the end of the day, you make what you make, and then the cost of doing business. As long as you're making more than what you're spending, it's the cost of doing business. But the last decade has been a lesson in volatility with the stock market, because watching your net worth swing wildly based on a headline or cryptic statement from a central banker in nerve wracking situations is not what we were looking for. You feel like a passenger on a roller coaster that you can't control. And the promise of 8 to 10% average annual returns feels hollow when you're facing a 20% loss. So even when we look, those of us who bought in last week are excited about the returns that we're about to get, but those of us who bought in this week are disappointed at the 30 cents a share that we missed out on since last week Thursday when I told you guys to buy it. Not that many days passed by, and 30 cents a share is not a lot individually, but in 100 shares, that's $300. Just you got to think about that. So you decide that you want something tangible, and you turn to real estate, which is probably better than turning to crypto. You listen to the gurus. I don't recommend that. You get excited about cash flow and buy a local residential property. Then reality hits. The 3 a.m. call about a pipe burst. The tenant who stops paying the rent. The surprise $15,000 bill for a new roof, or the $50,000 or $150,000 bill for a new roof. That's even worse. You quickly realize that you haven't bought an investment, that you bought a high stress, low paid job. After all, the work that is done, the actual return actually might be a disappointing 4 or 5% per year. Real estate agents actually I've talked to a lot of them, and some of them are excited about being in real estate, but all of them say the same thing, that no matter how much the property is worth versus how much the property is sold, you yourself usually walk away with between ten and $20,000 worth of money per house. So it could be a $500,000 house, it could be $1 million house. On a good day, you might walk away with $50,000, but on average, you walk away with between $10,000 and $20,000, no matter how much you paid to get it, renovate it, and resell it after you finish paying the lenders and the hard money loans and the holding costs and uh, the development costs and the time that you have to wait, usually anywhere between 1 to 9 months to sell the property. In some situations, right now, we've got people waiting 180 days to sell a house. And by the time the house gets sold, all that's left is around $10,000 to $20,000 per house. So for those real estate investment guys to fix and flip a house and sell it and be making $120,000 a year, they would have to be selling 12 or more houses per year, which is 1 to 2 houses per month. And the reason why I say 1 to 2 houses per month is because it takes 2, sometimes 3 months to close on the house. And until the house is closed, you still got to take care of that house. Glad my home uh, owner's insurance paid the damages. About a $500 deductible. Well, yeah, you might be celebrating on your homeowner's insurance, but even if you're paying $100 a month for homeowner's insurance for the roof to get repaired, you still have to take into account the fact that the homeowner's insurance is going to be costing you $1,200 a year at the least. And then you can only take out so many deductibles and so many time frames based on what you're asking for and how much you're trying to get. Other times, instead of taking out it, when you, because insurances usually cover unexpected damages. Insurance doesn't cover normal wear and tear. And since insurance doesn't always cover normal wear and tear, certain damages that happen to the property aren't covered under the insurance. And if you have a seemingly all encompassing insurance policy that does cover 90% or 95% of the possible things that could happen to a house. The fact is that you're paying more for a higher premium coverage to give you more opportunities to cash in one time in 40 years on the insurance policy. The rest of the time, you're just throwing money at an insurance policy where we've already proven that you could take that same quantity of money and put it into a bank account. And if you're doing your roof once every 20 years and you put some of the money for the cost of the roof into a stock option, in 20 years, you'd have enough money off of a stock option to pay for the roof and you really wouldn't need the homeowner's insurance. The homeowner's insurance is a mandatory requirement when there's a mortgage out on the house. But beyond that, it is if in the event that something happens and totally destroys the house, that it can be rebuilt at least close to what it used to be, because while it is grandfathered into the old building code, it is not going to be built the exact same way that it was 150 years ago if you've got a really old house. The building code has changed. So that's what the insurance is for. In case your house gets completely destroyed, like the houses burned down in California, the ones that were flooded out in Louisiana, homeowners insurance, if it covers that, will rebuild the house from the ground up, like those houses in Florida that got burned to the ground from the electric car that caught on fire. Those houses were rebuilt from the homeowner's insurance. That's what the insurance is for, to rebuild the house, not patchwork the house, which is a big difference. Um, yeah, that's okay. There's other companies. There are other companies, but the cheaper ones don't cover as much stuff. The renters are. Well, the renter's insurance covers certain damages inside of the property that might be the responsibility of the tenant, but that still doesn't cover 100% of what could happen. And you still have that problem that you might have to come out of pocket. So if you're paying your $50 to $100 a month for your homeowner's insurance, keep doing that. But you could be putting $100 a month aside for just in case you have to put $150,000 towards rebuilding your house. You could instead leverage your assets, rebuild the house, and then pay that off of the dividends from your stock portfolio, which that would be another way to do it, but it is still a frustrating situation. If you're going to do something similar to what I think Michael's talking about doing, is when the rent is being created for the property, certain costs you try to incorporate into the rent. There's only so much that you can incorporate into the rent and still stay in the market average level. But if you want to fill in all your properties, you want to be more competitive. So you want your price to be a little bit cheaper than your neighbors. That keeps you in a good unit. So you have to gauge the market, which is still a lot of work. And maybe you're going to look at high yield strategies like commercial real estate or development projects in order to turn a larger return, because you might get a larger return for a hotel chain or a massive apartment complex or a massive corporate complex like the plazas where all the businesses go. Those are rented usually. But here you hit another wall: access. The best deals often seem reserved for an exclusive club requiring huge amounts of capital to invest. You can't just put the few $100s that you have in your back pocket down. You have to have more money than the value of your house to put towards the deal. And an insider network in order to know where the deal is and gain access to the individual that'll help you get into the deal, which most people do not have. Because $500 out of pocket, cheaper than to pay it all out of pocket. It depends on what you're trying to do, because if it is covered under the insurance, it is always good to have insurance to cover the things that insurance is willing to cover. Because when you think about the 40 or 50 years that you're paying for this insurance, and then the one time that you take out the claim, you've technically saved enough money to pay for it out of pocket had you would have put that money aside and saved or invested it into high interest yields for the duration of time that you've been paying for it, because that would pay for the damage. For example, uh $20,000 repair, if you were to put um $200 aside per month for 15 years into a 20% return, there's a strong possibility that you would get close to, if not more than, $20,000. You're paying your insurance, and your insurance is going to charge you almost the same amount of money for the same period of time. And then you're going to give them an extra $500 deductible for them to give you back the money they've been sitting on so that you can pay for the house. Sometimes you have to understand that insurances are not there to keep you safe. It is a business that is designed to make money off of your fear that something will happen and not be able to afford to fix it. And they will pocket your money as long as you don't need their assistance, and turn profits off of your money as long as you don't need their assistance. And then when you need their assistance, they will analyze the severity of the situation to determine if they're going to. So it's not a shall issue, it's a may issue, because they may also deny you, even though you've been paying them for coverage this entire time. And a lot of times they send an adjuster out so that that adjuster can try to analyze the situation to determine how they can weasel their way out of what would identify itself as breach of contract by claiming that the damage occurred in a extremely unique way that was not listed in the coverage of the property. We talked about this in that insurance show. Like, for example, with um, flood damage versus water damage, where you might have coverage for actual water damage, where internal water damaging the property might cover the thing, but external groundwater might not cover the kind of thing. And that would lead to like a tsunami or a flood, excluding your house from coverage. But you had the reassurance from the agent that it would cover um, water damage. You don't always get that coverage. He said most of that is deductibles on your taxes. Well, it is. It is deductibles on your taxes, and so is taking out a a capital loan to fix the house and then paying off that capital loan off of your stock option. It's also covered on your taxes. It's the same. So it does not, and that protects your capital gains. So, the difference between the insurance company holding your money for you so that they can give it back to you when you need it versus you holding your money for yourself and then using it when you need it is absolutely nothing. Because if you borrow against your own money, that's a loan. And then if you're paying that back, that is paying off a debt, which is a tax exemption. And that's one of the things that you've seen Donald Trump did when he took a loan out against his own political campaign from himself and then paid himself back with 500% interest. He's paying back a debt on paper. Even though he borrowed from himself, he's paying back a debt on paper, and that makes it a tax deduction. So, could you have responsibly started putting money aside for the repairs of the house long before you got the house, and kept doing that until you actually needed the repairs for the house, and then borrowed against your own money and then fixed the house and then used that as a tax deduction and not had insurance? Of course you can. Do people think about it like that? Absolutely not. Because there's always that one person that bought the house, had the house for 45 days, and now catastrophic failure occurs and they have to take out the insurance claim within the first 2 months of possession of the house. And that what if, that fear is the reason why everybody has insurance. He says, you drive a car, you got insurance, some with the house, same with the house. No, you drive a car and it's legally required for you to have insurance, because in Mississippi for a long period of time, nobody had insurance on their cars, which is why there's a large push for uninsured motorists and PIP protection. Because you don't, if you have a car that has no value, Your insurance is supposed to replace your car if your car gets totaled. Your insurance does not repair your car if your car gets damaged from normal wear and tear. You have to pay for that out of pocket. So only when someone else hits your car, their insurance pays for your damage. But if you don't have the proper collision, if your car hits someone else's car, your insurance doesn't pay for your damage a lot of the times. Nowadays, that they're doing comprehensive and collision bundled up as a mandatory option, you have that if anything happens to the car, your insurance pays for it first. And that's typically enforced in no fault states where in those situations, your insurance is going to pay for your medical bills and your car insurance. I mean, your car's damage, even if it is not your fault. And that claim is going to have a negative ping towards your ability to renew with other insurers because it's going to show that you have a crash under your name. Doesn't matter whose fault it is. They paid out on your behalf, which is a negative mark on you, which causes your insurance to go up. However, outside of the legal requirement, the money that you put aside, think about how many times you've been in a car crash and then think about if you would have put that much money aside in a high interest option, and then when something happened, you would have taken out the loan against it to cover that situation. You probably would have saved a lot of money. Now, the only difference is that with a car insurance, when there is a crash, you typically settle out of court where the other party accepts the whatever maximum amount the insurance company is capable of providing for the crash to prevent them from suing you to go after your personal assets. That is a benefit of car insurance. Because if you had no car insurance, you would have an outstanding bill, and then you would have to prove that you're too poor to pay that outstanding bill, and there's nothing that they can garnish to get it out of you. He said, better to control chaos or it rules you. That is true. She was driving an act of God. It ain't an act of God if she was driving. It would be an act of God if the car is not damaged because while she was driving. That's an act of God. He said, I'll keep my insurance. It's a Ponzi scheme, anyways. Something, some things we just have to live with. You're right. Right. The when you take out a mortgage, they put your property taxes and your property insurance bundled into your mortgage. Then they charge you interest on that. In addition to the sale of the house. So you're in a position where as long as you're paying this mortgage, you're paying inflated costs towards the taxation of money that's going to Uncle Sam on your behalf for the property. If you in some situations when you're over a certain age range you can file in certain states for tax exemption where you don't have to pay taxes on your property on your homestead, and when that happens, that's less money that the mortgage will take off of your pockets for that house, which means that they're not going to be taxing you for that house interest on top of the US taxes. Crazy, isn't it? Ponzi schemes is if you get a mortgage, that you have insurance. It's a mandatory requirement because if you get a mortgage, the deed company, the title company, is not going to issue you a new title for the house unless you can insure the house because the house costs too much money. And if it burns to the ground or washes away or somebody puts it on the back of a flatbed truck and drives off with it, you are still liable for usually a $500,000 or more piece of property. And the insurance covers if the house is no longer existing on the land anymore, the insurance puts it back so that the lender can get their money out of the property. That's why there's a mandatory requirement for insurance when you own the house through a mortgage. But if you don't have a mortgage, you don't really need property insurance. You want to have property insurance in case your house disappears, but you don't necessarily need it if you don't have a mortgage. The same way you don't necessarily need car insurance for an unregistered vehicle, but you need car insurance for a registered vehicle by law, or they'll suspend your driver's license. See what I'm saying? Liability insurance, motors, yeah, and your rates go up every time. I sue. I know. I know. I would sue too. Every chance we get. Every time we find out that something is going wrong in life that is not supposed to go the way it is going, and there are laws that says that what's happening to us is unfair, there is a lawsuit there. Now, usually the average American can't afford the $5,000 to $10,000 retainer for the lawyer, and when that happens, you're stuck because people can take advantage of you because you don't have protection under the law. However, if you do enough research, you might be able to, in some situations, be able to cover your own skin in some of these cases. And in that situation, you are likely to, if they really did wrong you, you're likely to win it without a lawyer. But you got to know what you're doing. Um, and when you have these negative experiences, you find yourself stuck on the outside looking in, which wondering how would you be able to invest in some of those big money schemes. Now, it feels like the system is designed to keep you grinding away with slow frustration and often risky options. And you want higher, more predictable returns, but it feels like an impossible combination to find. But what if there's an alternative path? It exists in a place that has created a unique economic environment by aligning government policies, social needs, and private enterprise. Now, this is where we talk about Panama. To understand this opportunity, you have to see why Panama is more than just a tropical destination because it's a unique economic hub, starting with one simple fact. Panama has used the US dollar as its official currency for over a century now. For an investor, this means your money wins. There is no direct currency risk and you don't have to worry about a volatile local currency devaluing your investment, which is a common issue in other Latin American countries. Taxes, uh, file lost income. Well, here's the thing about taxation because some people are barking that taxation is mandatory and Trump said that it's optional. The fact of the matter is that the system is set up to force you to file taxes, even though it is not your requirement to do so. Some people want to argue that that's not true, but the truth of the matter is, if you file, you must tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth because this is a legal document. If you lie, that is tax fraud. That you go to jail for. If you fail to file, they'll charge interest on what you owe, but they're not likely to knock on your door and say, "Hey, where's my money?" Like the Friar Tuck from Robin Hood. The fact is that if in the event that money is paid to the IRS on your behalf, they just keep the money and put it towards whatever you owe, whatever they believe that you owe. Now, if you file, they will take what they believe you owe versus how long ago you should have asked for it. And then they will determine how much they want you to give them now in place of what they should be giving you. So let's say Donald Trump says, "Oh, we're going to give everybody $10,000 this year," and you want that $10,000. You file, and when you file, they audit you. And now, not only are you not getting that $10,000, they're like, "Hey, you owe us even more." But what say you if Trump says, "Oh, we're giving everybody $10,000," and you're like, the fact is that they'll keep that $10,000 even if you owe them $100,000, and they're not going to tell you squat because the IRS is not going to come to your door and demand anything until they know for a fact that you owe them more than they owe you. They're not going to literally audit you so that they can pay you money after the audit. They have to absolutely know that you're making more money than they were aware of and that you are supposed to pay them more than what you've given them so that they can come and get more than what they've gotten from you before they come and kick in your door. Because otherwise, they not gonna do it. So like what happened with MC Hammer, he was moving around $54 million at a time. He only owed $800,000. He didn't have it because he was spending more than he was making. So when they wanted their $800,000, he didn't have it. So they took $800,000 worth of his stuff. But out of $54 million, MC Hammer is somewhere around 5 million, $6 million right now. And that's what's left over after they liquidated his assets. But he's still a multimillionaire. Now, if he'd been more fiscally responsible when the IRS knocked on his door and said, "Hey, you owe us 800 grand," he could have put up the 800 grand. He could have put up 1 million out of the 54 million and still would have been able to keep rocking that rock that he was rocking. That's not what happened. So he said, not if you're a politician. You know the difference between politicians and the rest of us is that politicians can campaign for money, which is crowdfunding. And when they campaign for money, they're supposed to use it towards their political position. The campaign is a business like anything else. If they work out any type of contracts where they say, I, not me myself, but the business that I own, the LLC or C corporation that I own, will loan my campaign X number of dollars to run the campaign. Then any money that I got coming out of my pocket goes to the campaign. Then here's the funny part: there is no statutory obligations for the type of contract that you do. Because if y'all remember, we covered a story about short term lending. And short term lending, you can do as much as 500% or more, 600% or more, where you're doing a month to month renewable compound interest loan, where until the loan is paid off, continuously renewing the loan every time you make a payment towards the interest, which is seemingly what Donald Trump did with his campaign. So remember when I told you you could have put the money away for the house, then loaned it to yourself to pay for the house, and then claim that loan on your taxes as a debt owed, and then any profits that come in is paying on that loan. Guess what? That's exactly what Trump did with his first campaign in 2017. And he's still paying himself back off of that, even though he's making money off of the second campaign. Politicians know how to work the system. One, because they have like 20 people in the room telling them how to keep their money in their pockets, and two, they pay attention to the loopholes. The rest of us just know how to get up every day, go to work, make money for somebody else, get paid pennies for what we did, and take ourselves home broke, wishing we still had more money because we still got more bills that haven't been paid yet. And then after that, we're trying to struggle to get back out there again and go and get some more. But here on this and that, when we talk about this, that, and everything in between, to keep you guys from being broke, we tell you guys the same thing. We say, hey, let's do this, let's do it different so that we can find ways to make money for us. Because if you take a lot of the profits off your stock option, and then say you take 20% of it, and then you go and put some of it into Bitcoin, you put some of it into gold and silver, you put some of it into precious metals, you can diversify your portfolio outside of stocks and have your money growing in other areas. But where do you go to put up $100 and have $100 keep paying you money every month for the rest of your life? The only place that does that is a cash paying stock. Because if you put your money into crypto, as long as your money is on that cryptocurrency, it's gonna value fluctuate based on the value of the percentage of the crypto coin that you bought. But if you're doing like trade bots or something like that, and you're buying and trading throughout the day, including trading fees, if your bot trading is profitable, you will, because you're buying and selling, buying low, selling high regularly, you are turning over a better profit than what you would have turned over just letting it sit. Because even Bitcoin has a 4% return if you do a buy and hold. So stock option is like the only place that just throws out cash. But if you know that a loan, doesn't matter where the loan comes from. What matters is that the loan occurred. So you can do a loan from your own life insurance policy. You get you a life insurance policy. You put a bunch of cash in there. They typically give you 20% of the policy, but you put a bunch of cash in there, and then you borrow against the cash. They're going to have interest where they're going to make money off of this transaction. But when you borrow against your life insurance policy, that's a loan. So when you're paying on your life insurance policy, that's paying off a loan. So you can borrow against your life insurance policy, buy a new car, buy a new house, all this other stuff, and then take that money and put it back on your $1 million policy. What some of the elders do is they build up this insurance policy. Then when they start getting later in life, they liquidate the policy, buy a bunch of assets on a loan, and then charge off the loan, charge off the life insurance policy. Now that puts the assets free and clear, the debt charged off. The difference is kept because it was a backed loan, because it was your assets in the life insurance policy that backed the loan, zeroes it out. Old guy dies, next generation inherits all of the stuff that now has a monetary value. That's kind of how this stuff works. Now, if you put it into a trust, you don't have probate. Now, what trusts do is prevents the government from getting a percentage of helping you divide up all of your assets. But at the end of the day, you got to get assets to divide up. So let's say you seemingly broke person, you got 5, 7 kids. Everybody ain't gonna get something because you're gonna divide up the assets with all of the kids, but you got to cover the debt first. So if you left behind more debt than you had assets, probate will sell off all of your stuff. That's where the estate sales come from. Sell off all of your stuff, take the money, pay off your debt first, and if there's any money left over, then they will issue that to whatever kids that are still willing to accept whatever's left, pennies on the dollar. Yeah, that's a whole nother ball game there. I'm trying to tell you. He that you're making me feel good. I'm debt free. You should feel good being debt free. There's not a lot of people that are debt free. There's not a lot of people who own their own house. They have no back debt. They have no charged off credit cards. They have no overdrawn accounts. There's not that many people out here like that. Typically 1 or 2% of Americans that are like that are not billionaires. But you have to think about the fact that the average person doesn't know how to save and invest and spend their money wisely. If you need money, sell the house. A loan is a loan, no matter what it costs. It wears what cost it wears. No, but see, the thing is that if you loan money to you, so let's say that you have $100,000 in your LLC bank account, and let's say that your LLC does a loan to your personal self. Your LLC is requiring you to pay back the loan at 75% interest. So you're going to be paying back $175,000 towards a $100,000 loan. Because you borrowed the money from yourself, you're gonna pay back this loan. You're not going to sue yourself for breach of contract. You're going to pay back this loan, and as long as you're paying back this loan, you're claiming on your taxes that you're putting an extra $75,000 towards a debt. A loan is a loan, but if the loan is your loan that you own, you are the debtor and the creditor. You profit from the creditor side because as the business that loans you the money, when you need more money, you've got $175,000 now. You can loan a larger quantity of money to yourself and then pay that back. Which, thinking about it, you can actually create an LLC or a C corporation that is a lending company, which on the books would make a lot of sense. You could have a lending company for the family, which on the books makes a lot of sense because if they borrow from the lending company that belongs to the family and then pay it back with interest, they're putting more money back into the borrowing pot for emergencies, where they can borrow money out of that pot for emergencies and then pay that back as a tax deduction, which increases the quantity of capital that they can borrow next time and then reduces the quantity of taxation that they have to pay on their capital gains. Rockefellers. Yeah, I'm not worried. I'm dead. Rest in peace, Wilbur. The dollarization of having U.S. currency in Panama provides a bedrock of economic stability, which helps tame inflation and eliminates exchange headaches. Because you guys know that while we can go to places like Japan and the Philippines and other such, there is a currency exchange rate where we have to pay a fee to turn our US dollars into another currency so that we can spend it. Um, Even if you transfer the funds to a bank account in Panama, if you're transferring US dollars to Panama, it's US dollars going to Panama. If you transfer US dollars to China, there's going to be an exchange rate as soon as it hits your account. And then you have to deal with the payment option. Now, yeah, if you are one of those people that are paying taxes, then you will have the ability to claim any bank fees in your transactions as deductions because anything that's considered a loss is deducted on taxation. But that's if you're one of those people that are filing taxes. But you know that there are a lot of people who skip every other year, once every 4 years, and other such on not paying their taxes, and some that just don't ever, like Trump, doesn't pay taxes ever, doesn't file ever. They know I'm giving 20% of my money away. Well, you could, but this process is going to make Panama uniquely attractive for international businesses. And on top of this, Panama has a territorial tax system. And in a simple term that people can understand, income you earn outside of Panama is generally tax exempt. So if you're living in Panama, you don't have to pay taxes on any money that wasn't earned in Panama. So digital nomads are going to be fantastically satisfied with this particular endeavor. This, along with laws allowing 100% foreign ownership of property and businesses and easy reparations of profits, has made the country a magnet for international capital. And the business climate is designed to lure foreign talent and investments. So you have a stable, dollarized economy and a favorable tax environment. That's the foundation. The specific opportunity that we're discussing comes from a massive social problem Panama is facing, a critical housing deficiency. There is a severe shortage of affordable and middle class homes, with some estimating a suggested national deficit of around 140,000 units under the required need. He said, remember to like and subscribe. We made it through 921. It flickers at 918. I see it flicker. That's when I stop talking. You notice that I stopped talking right at 918, and then I'm like, click that button and then go back to talking. It flickers at 918. And I don't know, it's a data dump or something. It is a terminal window, a running in the background that just so happens to turn itself on. And then sometimes when it turns itself off, it restarts all the browsers. And StreamYard is browser run. So it'll kick off but then I can pull it back up real quick. So uh as of late, it hasn't been doing that. But sometimes it is just frustrating. We're working on it. The closer we get to 100,000 subscribers, the better off we are because then we can afford that $3,500 laptop so that we don't have to deal with this anymore. Like a 1 terabyte laptop. That'll help us out a lot. Then we won't have the lag that y'all are seeing, and we would have faster browser speeds. While we got them right now, we don't have enough. All right, you take your turn, checkmate. Instead of building these homes itself, the Panama government created powerful incentives. Same thing that the United States government does. We find a problem, we don't fix it. We offer people money to do it for us. And this is going to encourage private developers. This is where opportunities for outside investors began. So, two main programs are uh, preferential interest law, and Fondo Solidario de Vivida. It's important to understand these programs are for local Panamanian home buyers, not foreign investors. He said, no, I got an ad at 918. So you missed it when I was like, wait, let me click it off. But they are precisely why the investment model can be profitable. First, the preferential interest law provides a government subsidy on mortgage interest rates for new homes under a certain price, currently up to $180,000. This makes home buyers affordable for thousands of working families. Second, the Fondo Solidario de Vivienda or Solidarity Housing Fund provides a direct government contribution of $10,000 that a qualifying family can use as a down payment on their first home valued under about $70,000. So if you're a developer in Panama, you see a golden opportunity. The government has essentially created a large pre qualified pool of buyers, dramatically de risking your projects. But even with this demand, the developer has a cash flow problem because this is the bottleneck an outside investor can solve. The developer needing that early stage capital turns to private investors with a proportion and proposition. Help me fund this initial phase, and I will give you a private contractual guarantee to buy you out in 24 months at a targeted fixed profit. Your agreement is a private contract with a development company. The government's incentive programs creates such a high level of certainty for the developer that they feel confident offering early investors a premium for their capital. So you are essentially acting as a short-term private bridge financer. Some of those gurus call that like the Gator Fund, is when an investor is short on capital in a specific phase of development, whether it is closing on the property, the holding of the escrow account, or the development and construction of the project. And they will do a short term contract where you will get paid royalties to fix their money shortage problem. And then after they've paid you back, you can take that money and double down on other projects. Some people are making a killing on it because the fact is that usually the more experienced real estate investment developers do not use any of their own money. It's the cost of doing business to use your money to work this project, and then I get whatever's left. So you get paid, they get paid over there. I don't do any work, and because I oversaw this endeavor, I get whatever's left. Now, if you work the numbers correctly, you might see larger returns. But again, like I told you guys, on average, it's usually between ten and $20,000. Sometimes on a good day, $50,000 that they're walking away with after the fact. Now, a targeted 30% return in 24 months is a bold claim. And in investing, extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof and a clear eyed look at the risks. So, this model is plausible in Panama due to the unique convergence of factors: the dollarized economy, a legal framework that protects private contracts, and the massive undeniable housing deficit. So now for the most important question, what are the risks? The primary risk is developer risk. Your contract is what a private company has to deal with. And the single most important factor is the quality, track record, and financial health of that developer. Before investing, you must vet them relentlessly. How many projects have they completed? Are they financially sound? Skipping this due diligence is the fastest way to lose your money. The second risk is execution risk. What if the project is delayed? Construction can face delays from supply chain issues like we experienced with the tariffs, or permitting problems like we've seen in Hong Kong, where it takes them 5 years to get government approval to do certain types of development in certain phases. A seasoned local developer knows how to navigate these issues. Your contract should have clauses that address potential delays. The third risk is the market risk. This niche is somewhat insulated. You aren't investing in the speculative luxury condo market, but in the social and middle class housing sector, driven by fundamental local needs and supported by government subsidies. So your fixed return contract aims to protect you from fluctuations in property values. And finally, there is a legal and political risk there. What if the government suddenly cancels the incentive program? Because that is a real risk. Through the immense pressure to solve the housing crisis makes it less likely for us to see this incentive dissolve anytime soon. But it's crucial to have your investment contract reviewed by an independent qualified Panamanian attorney to ensure it's enforceable in their courtrooms. Now, to recap, the risk mitigation strategy is to target a non speculative market, use a private contract with a fixed return, and most importantly, conduct exhaustive due diligence on the developers. Now, this investment opportunity is going to exist with the broader context of a very attractive destination because Panama is one of the most attractive countries for cost conscious living, particularly for foreigners and retirees. So let's start with the cost of living. A couple can live comfortably in many parts of the country for under $2,000 a month. Uh, there are stories and rumors that claim that you can grind out in some of these countries for less than 1,500 and less than $1,000 a month, living like the natives. But if you have been westernized and the luxuries of your Western culture is there, you may not want to experience much of the culture shock that requires you to live on a 1,000 or $1,500 a month budget. You might want to more comfortably navigate yourself through a successful $2,000, $2,500 lavish style of living. But in a boutique, the expat's favorite for its cool mountain settings and outdoor activities, rent for neat, nice looking apartments are between 400 and 800 a month, which far we can't find that anymore. Now we have studio apartments, which is a one room unit with a kitchen and a bathroom in that unit that is like in the attic, over the garage, in the basement, a side addition to the building that is utilized for this 400 to 800 a month. That's usually called an in-law suite, and people usually rent that out. But the total living expenses is often under $1,300 a month. In David, you get modern amenities. David's a location, not just a name. And you're going to be able to experience a city life without Panama City's high costs with furnished one bedroom apartments for $400 to $500 a month. And for laid back lifestyles, you have Las Tablas on the Azuro Peninsula, which offers rents as low as $350 to $500 a month with easy access to the beach. Now, Chai Tree offers colonial charm and a relaxed lifestyle, where a niche standard of living can be had for about $2,000 a month. So, even more budget friendly options like Santiago and Colon exist with rent from 400 to 600 through with uh, they got a little bit of trade offs in the infrastructure, but the places are still very affordable. Again, when we want better quality, you got to pay for convenience. Then there's healthcare because Panama has high quality private options with many hospitals affiliated with U.S. institutions like Johns Hopkins offering world class care at a fraction of the cost that you would get in America. A visit to a specialist might only cost you $40, where the deductible for the specialist might cost you $150 in America. So, for those looking to stay, Panama offers a welcoming residency program like the uh, Peninsula. That visa is open to anyone with a lifetime pension of at least $1,000 a month. So if you're on Social Security disability and you're making $1,000 a month, if you have veterans benefits, you're making more than $1,000 a month, they'll hook you up. It's a combination of stable income and low cost of living, good health care, and a welcoming expat community is a friendly immigration uh, location, which also has very good policies related to immigration. That is a powerful feedback loop, attracting talent and capital that further stimulates the economy. So, first, we had real estate in mainstream markets. And in 2025, urban hotspots in Panama City like Costa del Este, El Congreso, and Bella Vista are seeing apartments yielding averages between 6.8% and 7.8%. And in prime areas, mid market rental yield can even reach 8 to 9%, with rents driving up by 12 to 15% year over year in central locations. So in tourist zones like Boquete, Boca del Toro, and Playa Venio, uh, strong seasonal rental income is very common. So for savvy investors, bank foreclosures and below market value buys can provide 20 to 30% discounted entry points. Next are the special economic zones. There are special economic zones in just about every country around the world. You just got to figure out if you want to get involved in them. Panama Pacifico, located near the city, offers tax exemptions for logistics, aviation, and tech companies. The colon free trade zone is offering the largest in the Western Hemisphere and allows for duty free imports and exports. Both zones create steady job growth and fuel demand for surrounding residential and commercial real estate scenarios. Renewable energy is another key sector in Panama, where Panama is aiming for 70% renewable energy by 2050, which is about 25 years from now, offering tax breaks and other incentives for investments in solar, wind, and green hydrogen. The return on investments in these projects can reach double digits, especially for early entrants. And finally, we have financial services and fintech because Panama's stable dollarized banking system is a regional hub with new digital banking licenses and regulatory support. It's becoming a prime base for cross border payments and e wallets, creating opportunities in a rapidly growing tech sector. This includes the affordable and middle class housing projects that we focused on earlier. So these government incentivized developments allow investors to enter with modest capital, sometimes around $59,000, with structured deals promising fixed returns of about 30% within 24 months, all driven by a pre qualified list of local buyers. Other niche opportunities include uh, reforestation investments with an investment of at least about $80,000 in a government approved project. You can secure Panamanian residency and tap into the growing export market for tech and Magani, with some projects offering double digit interest rates for returns. Now, sectors like agriculture, specifically coffee and cocoa, And if y'all want to know where the cocaine come from, I'm in love with the cocoa. It's the cocoa beans. So if you get you some cocoa beans and put them into your caffeine, it'll be like the original Coca-Cola drink with a Red Bull. You will be wired. That's why America doesn't like you shipping cocoa to America. But outside of that, you have the agriculture with coffee and cocoa. And then tourism. Micro businesses such as eco lodges, adventure tours, and wellness centers are also ripe for investments, leveraging Panama's natural assets and growing international reputations. So, even private lending and microfinancing are also expanding with P2P platforms and secured small business lending offering returns higher than traditional finance. These less crowded paths can offer significant upsides with annualized returns, often exceeding 10 to 15%, and some targeted micro projects reaching 20 to 30% in short cycles. So let's tie this all together. If we started with frustrations of modern investing, then we looked at a different path in Panama, a country where a stable dollarized economy, a massive housing deficit, and powerful government incentives have created fertile ground for a specific type of investment. Private partners with developers building social housing targeting fixed returns of 30% in 24 months. You'll be able to experience more effective and more efficient investment opportunities. And we've been honest about the risks, which are managed through rigorous due diligence on your development partner. But we've also shown that this is just one piece of a much larger puzzle, from high yield urban real estate and strategic special economic zones to niche sectors like reforestation and fintech. Panama offers a diverse ecosystem of opportunity. And this is a strategy for the savvy investor tired of the old options. It's for the person who wants a hands off investment, targeting a predictable return on a clear timeline, secured by a contract. This is rare window where the conditions are perfectly aligned. If you are serious about investing and what I've described is resonating with you guys, I invite you guys to take that next step because it requires a certain level of capital and a clear understanding of the calculated risks. But for the right person, it could be a powerful tool. Now, I know that we look over a lot of these things, and you guys can always ask us about any of the projects that are working over in Panama, and we can actually mow over which ones are successful, which ones are not, which ones are in certain phases. And if we're discussing these things, we're able to determine which ones make the most sense for you. Because here on this and that, we always talk about this, that, and everything in between. But if you walk through the due diligence, you will be able to pay attention to what your developers are capable of versus the timeline you plan on being successful and your capability to capture returns in an expedited fashion. So if you guys are ready to stop fighting for scraps in traditional markets and want to learn more, you got to make sure that you take time to like and subscribe to the channel because uh, we got a lot of information about different areas where your journey into unique investment markets starts with the knowledge that it exists. One of the things that we do is not only do we talk about it, we actually invest in it as well. We let you guys know, hey, there are new investment opportunities out there. And then we take advantage of some of the best ones that we find, which is one of the reasons why we keep the stocks rolling across the bottom of the screen because we let you guys know that these are the most effective ones that you can utilize in the current market. As things change, as things progress, we continue to analyze the stocks and compare them against market values. And we continue to remind you guys as things change, which stocks have fallen off of the favorites list and which ones are still on the favorites list. But this is about 45 or 50 of the most beneficial stocks that you can utilize in the current market here in September of 2025. As it stands, it's up to you whether or not you get in on it. But if you want to get more information on some of these things, you've got to make sure that you take that time to hit that notification button on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Twitch if you're on Twitch or Twitter. And then you know that we've got 4 days left. And it's about time for us to start transitioning our TikTok platform to our TikTok platform on America's side so that we can continue to do whatever it is that we're going to be doing for TikTok. That is a huge transition that needs to happen coming soon. We just found out that we have to get in there first and verify, but we just found out that the streaming requirements using a stream key requires you to have at least 1,000 followers on TikTok. So it is up to um, Uncle Sam to decide on if they're going to keep it that way or if they're going to have that $10,000 requirement, that 10,000 subscriber requirement that China had. But for those individuals that are starting off and they don't quite have 1,000, find a way to get to 1,000, and then when the market starts to increase, you'll be able to utilize that as another source of promoting your channel. We cover all kinds of stuff around here. And remember, since the fifth is right around the corner, if you're buying in the Oracle, probably a good idea to get into it now so that when it does hit that spike after TikTok takes off in the US market after the 15th of September, you'll be in the forefront of that transition. Because until TikTok is publicly traded, the only way you're going to make money off of TikTok is if you're investing in a company that's investing in TikTok that is publicly traded. And we have all the information that you can find on this channel here. So what we're going to say is that we're going to say, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, it's going to keep asking you, ladies, to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. Fellas, we are about 67% male driven podcast from the male perspective. We are giving you guys this information to help you become higher value men, which allows you guys to make better decisions in your personal life that helps you improve your financial life. Ladies, this is not a gender exclusive information. Y'all can use this information to make yourselves higher value women as well. We give you every Wednesday a different country that you can invest in that is affordable, more affordable than staying in the United States. So if you either wanted to just go there to invest to make you extra money, or if you wanted to go there and spend less money on your standard of living and invest at the same time, the difference, either way is good. I recommend that when you guys decide to travel and you want to live in other countries, that you, if you don't already have a guaranteed standard living coming from your inheritance or some type of retirement fund, that you establish yourself some type of digital income, something on the computer where your cell phone or something like that, where you're getting paid while you travel. As long as you got internet service, you've got success coming in. That would be the most effective way to go because there are a lot of digital nomad visas. There are a lot of um, international visas where countries will offer you citizenship as long as you can prove that you can support yourself with whatever you got going on. So I don't know if they want you to show like the last 12 bank statements that you've had and a tax return, or if you've got to show them a contract from somebody or whatever they want to see to know that you've got guaranteed money coming in. As long as they recognize that you've got guaranteed money coming in, especially since it's not coming out of their country, most countries not going to tax that income and potentially give you an extended stay in their country because you can utilize a work visa which will allow you to work either within their country or work off the computer while in their country and be able to pay for your standard of living. And then all you got to do is just hold the fort down. Now, if the money that you're making off of your job is barely getting you by in America, but you can make that same money off of your computer and you would be living twice as good in a cheaper country, go to a cheaper country. You just got to deal with the time zone change. These are the things that we talk about. You don't have to make it a permanent move. Like Trump said, you can go, you can stay gone, you can come back, whatever you want to do. He doesn't care. You can go for a few years or you can come back, whatever you decide to do. Special shout out to mixed martial arts. He's sliding in towards the end. Today was a short show. Hope you had a nice day. Yeah, I had a pretty decent day. I had a pretty decent day. Takes a lot of work to do what I do. Uh, and today was an extra day of work because I was expecting to have the majority of the day off. But then I got started on a project that I wanted to complete today so I wouldn't have to complete it tomorrow. And that took up the majority of my afternoon, but I got it done. Remember, I told you guys that you have to have five things that you want to accomplish in a day, two things that are mandatory, and three things that are optional. And one of the two things that I got both of the mandatory things done today, and the other optional things that are ready for tomorrow. So one of the things I'm going to be doing after the show is taking care of one of my optional things so that I have one less thing to do tomorrow. And then I've got three optional things that I can tackle for tomorrow, which leaves me with a less stressful week. Still making strides, still making changes. The difference is that we just have to, do better about our planning, do better about our schedule. So, uh, yeah, that's all I have for you because we with Panama doesn't have as much going on as some of the other countries that we talk about, and there isn't anything wrong with that. It's just that, like I said before, real estate is a big deal around the world because more people are being born and more places to stay need to occur. And while inflation does happen around the world, the standard of living and the income that supports the standard of living does not happen that way around the world. So the change that happens is that um, you find yourself in a position where people are just not gonna um, afford the type of lifestyle that they actually need. And if you're traveling to certain countries that have these types of social stigmas, you just find yourself in an ample opportunity to mitigate the problem. If you're starting up a business, the cost of living out there is so cheap that you can charge them more than the market average, well, pay them more than the market average, and still undercut the cost of living, the cost of employees in America. That particular type of option gives you the ability to build employee loyalty and stimulate the economy. You can buy properties and build them up and fix them up. If you're not trying to be greedy, you want to be able to. When you have a lower price, you have to sell more to make more money. But when you have a lower price, you are capable of selling more often because more people can afford it. So the goal is not to have a multi-million dollar big day once a year. The goal is to have a multitude of smaller options happening regularly so often to the fact that you can hire somebody else to manage this stuff. That's when you start automating businesses. You being the person trying to find the next business deal before you run out of money, put all of whatever available capital you have in it, and then hope that you turn a profit before you run out of money. One time a year or five times a year is still a level of stress. You having the capabilities to piece together a system where it pays for itself and then you have other people around you doing all of the work for you. Yeah, you're going to get a little bit less, but you'll be sitting in the chair sipping Mai Tais on a yacht in the middle of the ocean while your less comes in and all of your workers are doing the work for you. And because you have so many workers, more deals can be done in a shorter period of time, which turns over more profits, which allows you to cover the overhead and still get the profit that you were looking for, as long as you're not greedy. You have to figure out ways to make money for yourself. You have to figure out ways to start up businesses for yourself so that you can hire people to work in your business so that your business can run itself so that you can get paid off of the existence of your business without having to do any work. You want to be a founder of something that eventually is in existence for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. You want to establish something for yourself that is self-sufficient. If the kids are going to take over the family business, you need to have a family business to take over. Doesn't matter what kind of business it is. You need to have a family business to take over. So, with that being said, that's all I've got for you guys for tonight. I want to thank you guys for coming to this and that. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'll see you guys tomorrow night.
Chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.